Welcome to Dishing Heat with Wolfie and Big Shot Song. I'm your host, Nathan Wolf.
And I'm your co-host, Max Song.
And today, we have a guest star for the first time. He was the leading free throw shooter on our junior high basketball team and the leading free throw misser, Mr. Cummins. How you doing?
I don't like you. I don't like you.
Love you too. So today, we're gonna talk about the NBA released a top 75 list. And the 50 who were on the list originally in 1996 all got brought back, but 25 new players were added, and it's been a very controversial topic. So we each decided we'd make our own list. We've tiered the list. We've made 4 tiers, starting from tier 1, which is the legend tier. Tier 2 is the players that we believe are undebatable to be on this list. Tier 3 are the players that we believe are locks, but someone may just be able to debate. And tier 4 is any player who is debatable or players who didn't make the official list that we think should definitely make this one. So, starting with Mr. Song, who did you have in your legend tier?
All right, so I had 5 legends. I started with KD, I had LeBron, I had Timmy D, I had Kobe Bryant, and I had Steph Curry.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie.
It's not a legend? Oh my god.
That's the identical legend tier to me. Cummins, what did you have?
I had Kobe, Tim Duncan, LeBron, Steph, KD, and Dirk. And KG.
Okay, oh, KG, really?
Are y'all stupid?
Okay, so I can get behind Dirk for sure, but I cannot get behind KG.
Oh my, yeah, I'm pulling up the all-time stats. I'm pulling it. So he won MVP, right?
Sure.
For his
I mean,
career,
Giannis is 1 too, but whatever.
Okay, listen. 17.8 points per game, right? 10 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and he led the Minnesota team for most of the years.
Led them nowhere though.
But he was the best power forward behind Tim Duncan.
Kevin Love was the best power forward in the league.
Also,
Most of the 2000s.
I'm not gonna lie, this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I have Giannis over him all time, so there's no shot I can put in the legend here.
I wouldn't go that far.
2 MVPs in the ring, just it's not. I can't. I get the All Stars and the All NBAs and whatnot, but Giannis, his rings and his MVPs are way more impressive.
All Stars.
Nah, for me, a legend is someone will remember in 30 years. I don't think Kevin Garnett's gonna stick out in 30 years. People will remember LeBron and Timmy D.
15-time All-Star.
Listen, he's on. No one's. This isn't a debate about whether he's on the list, but he's just. I just can't see putting.
9-time All-NBA.
I still have Giannis over him all time with two MVPs and the DPOY. I mean, he's basically done everything, but he just has less. He's basically done everything, but he just has less years.
I'm pretty sure KG has the DPOY too.
Yeah, he does. That's what I'm saying. They've done all the same things, but Giannis has just done them slightly less, but in my opinion, better. And he's got the extra MVP, and that's how I place him above.
Okay, so you go. So someone who has more. So Steve Nash is better than Kobe.
What?
No, MVPs aren't everything. It's just
come on now.
They've done all the same things, except Giannis has less All Stars, but he has the MVP, and an MVP, in my opinion, is worth way more than an All Star or an All NBA.
So Steve Nash is better than AI.
On my tier list, Steve Nash is higher than AI.
I also have Steve Nash above AI.
Oh my god.
We'll get to that in a minute, but okay, so there's one debate on the Legends tier, but other than that, I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get anywhere here, but I don't see KG making that Legends tier.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Nathan.
You put whatchamacallit. You put Steve Nash over AI all the time. I don't want to talk to you.
Okay, we'll get there. Max, who do you have on your undebatable tier? Your tier 2.
This is the biggest list for me. I had 9 in my undebatable. I had D Wade, CP3, Steve Nash, James Harden, Kawhi, Dwight Howard, which he obviously should have been here. I don't know what the NBA was doing. Giannis, I had Dirk, and then I had KG.
Okay. What about you, Cummins?
I'm eating a pizza.
Okay. Yeah, I had all the same. I had all the same players. I didn't put Dwight Howard just because I put him in the players who didn't make the official list here. I think it could be argued. I haven't really looked at it. It could be argued that he's in that tier 2 for sure. I didn't put Kawhi Leonard I was really considering it, and I'm not gonna like stand on this at death, but I didn't include him in that tier of players. He just seems ever so slightly under.
Oh, you can't be serious. You cannot be serious. Kawhi in his prime? Are you kidding me? One of the best perimeter defenders ever. 2 Finals MVPs. Like, I get that during the regular season he cruises, but during the playoffs he's like a completely different beast.
No, but like I
can't believe.
I kind of agree with him. Like I wouldn't put him in the undebatable category. I'll put him in the maybe argue.
Me too. I that's what I think. I just think okay, he's had he's had 5 like really good seasons. The rest were 16 points per game or under, and that's including the season where he sat out and only played those 9 games. Obviously, playoffs are a whole different story, but I just don't see him making that undebatable tier from what he's done so far.
He's like usually injured, and like okay, he had good playoff stats, right? But one of the championships he won, he still had Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Manu Ginobili producing numbers. He was just there to stop LeBron. That's why he got the Finals MVP. It's not because of his outstanding like offensive play. It was just defensive.
He was there to stop LeBron, and he did it.
No. Oh my God.
He did it.
Hey, listen, he shot 51-42 on 14 points per game though. This is the Iguodala MVP. It's the same thing in terms of Finals MVP. Obviously, a little bit better, I believe, offensive production. But I mean, 2 rings, you can argue with the Finals MVPs that gets him to that tier. In the years that he's had, he's also evidently doesn't have that MVP. I can't put him there.
Yeah. I think y'all forgetting about the 2019 like Raptors run. Like, he put up great offensive numbers in that too while playing great defense. Cause, like, maybe in the Spurs he still had Tim Duncan, but who like obviously the Raptors had a great supporting cast, but Kawhi like had so many iconic moments in that.
Got hurt, bro.
Happens for every championship. I hate that argument. Like every championship, there's always an asterisk there. But
no, but that's it's not an asterisk. He did the job, but 2 all-time players got hurt.
2 players on this list for me, and I hope the rest of you. But I don't think that's the argument against it. That run was amazing. It's obviously very Dirk-like, and if you're going to argue Dirk is in tier 1 for that reason, I could see potentially arguing Kawhi, but when he's only had 5 really great seasons, when you put him against the other guys in that undebatable tier, greatest of all time, I can't see him being there.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to agree on this, so...
Max, you said Kawhi stopped LeBron in 24, like played good defense against LeBron in 2014, right?
Of course.
LeBron scored 25 first game. LeBron scored 35 second game. I don't have the third game stats, but 4th game he scored 28. 5th game he scored 31.
No, the argument against it is not like...
That's not dominant, though, to be fair.
Yeah, I think LeBron...
Where did he play defense?
No, but when Kawhi was switched on to LeBron, he shot worse from the field. He wouldn't have averaged that many points. It wasn't like Kawhi was on him the entire time, right? LeBron is going to do LeBron things no matter who's guarding him, but he would have done even better, like be even more dominant if Kawhi wasn't there to slow him down.
You can also look at how he shot against Iggy, and people gave him that Finals MVP. He was worse against Kawhi. But let's move on to the maybe debatable kind of personal locks tier. Max, who you got in that tier?
All right, so I got a couple of hot takes in here. First, I got Westbrook. I think like a lot of people are gonna have Westbrook in this tier. I have Paul Pierce actually, and I think this is a controversial take. I got Pau Gasol, who didn't actually make the original list. I got Jason Kidd. I hope all of y'all are gonna have Jason Kidd in this tier, and then I have Allen Iverson.
Thomas?
I got Jason Kidd. Did y'all put CP3 in undebatable?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I have Jason Kidd, I have GP, I have Melo, and that's it.
In this tier, I have Jason Kidd as well. This is my Kawhi tier. I have Westbrook as well. I have AI. I have GP as well. I don't have Paul Pierce or Melo in this tier, but they're both on my list. And I have Pau Gasol on my list as well, but not in this year. I don't think he's a lock by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, so a lot of people are gonna be mad at me for this, but I don't think Melo's I think Melo's overrated all the time. In my opinion, I think Paul George's peak was higher than Melo's peak. But I think I'll talk about that more later when I talk about Paul George, who I also have on this list. But I wouldn't have Melo in this list.
So you're not going to bring up when Melo led his team to the Western Conference Finals against Kobe?
You're not going to bring up when he lost in every single other round, in the first and second round, in literally every other playoff series he played.
Okay, but let's be real. Who are his teammates?
It doesn't matter. All the greats that, especially in the locks, they except for maybe Westbrook, but he's a different case because he averaged.
What Paul George did. Tell me how far Paul George brought his team to in the playoffs.
Doesn't matter. He was top 3 in the MVP voting. I'll tell you,
so it doesn't matter.
I'll bring it up later. But I think even if you compare Paul George's and Melo's peaks statistically, Paul George is better.
I looked at Paul George.
You can't do that with stats. You can't do that with stats because.
Yeah.
When Melo played, his stats would be less because it's a slower era.
Well, when you look at Melo's stats, you're looking at the points per game. When we look at Melo's 2 best seasons in terms of playoffs and personal play, we look at that 8-9 season with Denver where he did lead them to the conference final, and we look at the 2012-13 season with the Knicks, where not only did he make it pretty far in the playoffs, he also won, at least by his standards, he also won the scoring championship. Obviously, I believe he was All-Star and All-NBA, averaging 28-7 in the regular season, and in the playoffs that season, 28-8. Melo is definitely on this list. He's not on my tier 3, but I don't know if he's overrated all the time. I think maybe there is some people 10-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA with the scoring champ. Maybe that is jumped off the page in terms of achievements, but
it's just because he has Damian Lillard achievements. Damian Lillard hasn't made it far in the playoffs, but he put good all-time numbers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. If Damian Lillard stays the course that he's on right now, Damian Lillard will end up looking. I don't know if you have Damian on your list. He did make the official, but it's kind of gonna end up like that. But Damian Lillard isn't there yet, in my opinion. We were talking about Paul George. I thought about him. He did not make my list. 7 and 6 in terms of All-Stars and All-NBAs. 4-time All-Defensive. He's really close, but the issue I have with him is on the Pacers teams, they made it really far in the playoffs, but he wasn't he was the guy, but he wasn't far and away the guy. And then even when he was in that, I thought about that MVP season in OKC, and that was amazing, but they didn't get anywhere. So that's kind of where I sit with that.
I'll talk more about Paul George in the debatable category because that's where I have him on my list. But yeah, we can always argue that. I just don't have Melo on my list, so I think
do we have
it's
anyone
controversial.
Else we have arguing in this tier 3?
I have Paul Pierce and Pau Gasol that both of you don't have.
Both are on my list, but neither on the tier.
I have Paul Pierce in the maybe argue.
Yeah, in the locks category though, I have Paul Pierce.
Yeah, that's the same category. Yeah, it's the tier 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we got.
Paul Pierce was the closest, or one of the closest in my tier 4 to making this tier 3. He just doesn't have the personal accolades. I don't think that he's very close though. He's very close.
I wouldn't be mad at you if you put it in the debatable or maybe argue. I wouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't think you can be mad either way. I think he's right there.
Yeah, I agree. He averaged 26 and 4 on 45-37 splits, so his stats are really good.
Finals MVP makes him maybe argue.
Finals MVP.
Oh,
yeah.
I agree. I think if you're looking at anything, that's what you're looking. It's the Finals MVP in that championship. If that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Then that's where when you're saying, okay, why is he here? Boom, that's exactly why is that.
Right.
Let's move on to tier 4 because this is where I'm sure almost all of this argument is going to reside around. So Max, who did you have in your tier 4?
All right, I started with Vince Carter. I had Ray Allen. Like I said earlier, I have Paul George. I have 2 more Spurs in this category in Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. And then finally, I know we're going to have a great time talking about this. I have Kyrie Irving.
Oh my God. Okay, Cummins, who do you have? Before you freak out.
I have Klay, Dominique, Ray Allen, Manu, and Tony.
Klay, Dominique,
Ray Allen,
and Matt. Okay, sure. So my debatables list is probably, I think it's the largest out of us because I put Dwight Howard in this list based on the fact that he didn't make the official list. And same with Klay Thompson. Not that I don't think Klay Thompson's in this tier, but he also didn't make the official list. So I had Paul Pierce, Carmelo Anthony, Klay Thompson, Ray Allen, Dwight Howard. I had Anthony Davis. I had Dominique. He was a late addition. I didn't realize he didn't make the 50. That's crazy. And Pau Gasol. Evident is that none of us had Dennis Rodman, I don't think, and he made the official list, which is interesting.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's insane. None of us had Reggie Miller, and that's valid. I don't know how he made the original list. It's head scratching. Both of you had Manu?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not have Manu. Vince Carter was there on Max's list.
Yes, sir.
Nobody had Derrick Rose or Nikola Jokic, the only two MVPs off the list.
Yes, sir.
D-Rose, if you look at D-Rose and Jokic, it's just their careers. It didn't last long enough. Like D-Rose got injured. If he didn't get injured, he would obviously be on the list. Jokic is just really young. That's what I'm saying. Like it's like Giannis' first MVP season.
I agree with Thomas.
Jokic is 2 years off in my opinion. Unless this knee injury that he just sustained is like serious, I think he's 2 years off. And Derrick Rose was right there, but the fact that and people forget that he was close to winning Sixth Man of the Year twice in the last 4 or 5 seasons. None of us had Damian Lillard, and he made the original list. There was 1 or 2 Paul Georges.
I think it's only me that had Paul George.
Paul George from that dumbass.
Okay, 1 Paul George. Do we all have Pau Gasol?
I had Pau Gasol in the tier early, tier 3.
Wow, Pau Gasol is very spread apart in our tier list. We can get to that. I'm surprised you don't have Pau Gasol coming, so I'm not going to lie.
I don't have... Because Pau's not better than Tony.
Oh, we're arguing versus Manu, though. Pau versus Manu is my argument.
Are you... No, Manu's better than Tony Parker all time.
I don't know about that one, bro.
We're talking about this right now. Hold on.
Manu Ginobili.
Dude, Tony Parker has that Finals MVP. Come on now, that alone puts him over Ginobili.
It's just all the time.
Okay, but like the only reason... Okay, like you know how Manu didn't start for a little bit of his career, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was the 6th man. That was just because Manu didn't play the point guard position. Like you know what I mean? Like that's because like Tony, right? Tony played the point guard position, so he could like give assists and stuff. So if Manu and Tony switched positions, Tony would be off the bench and he would not get the Finals MVP. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but we can talk hypotheticals all the time. Like yeah, we can talk hypotheticals, but Tony Parker did win the Finals MVP, so his accolades are way ahead of Ginobili. But when I'm looking at Ginobili and Tony Parker, like I'm not really looking at stats. I'm not looking at Tony Parker averaging like a lot of assists. I'm just looking at their on-court impact. There's something about them. They have this intangible quality that just really boosted the Spurs in terms of just winning. So when I look at those two, I don't really compare like, oh wow, Tony Parker averages 2 more assists, right? I just look at the accolades and how much they actually help the Spurs organization win.
When you look at all time, so Manu did not make my list. And honestly, to be honest, I don't think he was close. In terms of, I can't remember. I don't believe he made the original, but like I would have Klay over him for sure. And that's an argument we've definitely had, and we can have again if you want. I don't know if you still have Manu over Klay, but Tony Parker. Tony Parker averaged on his career, he played way more games. He averaged way more points. And yes, I understand that's because Manu played in Europe for years, but still, this is greatest. More assists, which if you want to argue that, that's fine. We can omit that. His field goal percentage was 5 points higher, although his 3-point percentage was down a few marks. And his awards, like he's a 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA, 4-time champion, same as Manu, and the Finals MVP. Whereas Manu's 2-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA, 4-time champ, and 6th man. That just doesn't feel like making the list worthy in terms of stats.
No, Manu's not like, okay, for example, Kobe averaged 25 points per game, six rebounds, 4 assists or something like that, right?
Sure.
Right. Those aren't outstanding numbers for like a top 5 player of all time. Those aren't outstanding numbers. But it's the way you have to watch the game and his impact in the game. Manu's not like a stat guy. He led the whole second unit and made them like a really respectable level second unit. Like the best second unit in the NBA for multiple years because he was a 6th man.
I'm with Cummins.
It's his impact.
But does that make him a top 75 player of all time?
Yes.
Because he led them to rings, bro. That led to rings. His impact led to. If Manu was not the second, if Manu did not come off the bench and lead that second unit, there would be no rings.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as saying there's no rings, but I think as in creating a dynasty, the Spurs dynasty, Ginobili had to be there in order to make them almost untouchable for a couple of years because Ginobili really did make that second unit like exceptional. Yeah, I agree with Cummins in terms of Ginobili's stats maybe don't look exceptional, but when you look at the total work of game he puts into it and how much impact he had on the Spurs organization, he's just a winning player, and I think that puts him in the top 75.
Okay, so let's have this argument. Sure, who did you not have that I had on my list?
Klay Thompson.
Whoever you both had Manu, or who had Manu?
We both had Manu.
Me and Max both had
Okay,
Manu.
so you didn't have Klay Thompson. First of all, Klay Thompson's better all time, and it's not close. And here's why: Klay Thompson, in half the time, has more All Stars, the same amount of All NBAs, just one less championship. He has somehow only one All Defensive Team. It should be way more. The guy is a great defensive player. They were both All Rookie. Klay Thompson shot on 20 points per game. He shot 46, 42, one of the greatest shooters of all time. Manu, on 13 points per game, shot 44, 36. That gap is insane. And I get, if he's not a stat guy, whatever, that's still 46, 42 is 46, 42, no matter how you look at it.
No, Nathan, it's not the debate's not like Klay and Manu because me and Max both have Manu. It's just you don't. It's just Max has Kyrie.
But do you have Klay?
I have Klay.
Cummins has Klay. I don't have Klay.
That's fine. But you don't have Klay, and I don't understand how you could put Manu over, because at this point, even if we omit Kyrie, that is saying that you put Manu over Klay.
Here, I'll justify it.
You put over Klay.
My rationale behind this, though, like, I wouldn't be mad if you put Klay over Manu. I was weighing those two, seeing which one I would put, but I ended up putting Manu just because if you look at his accolades, maybe not individually, but even with the team, it shows how much he causes team success. And even if he was with the Spurs organization, like, he still caused a lot of team success. So I think Manu was just more successful in his career. I think by the end of Klay's career, like, he'll be way above Manu. But just in terms of team accomplishments, I just look at Manu and what he's done, and I just think
team accomplishments.
Yeah,
Klay has better team accomplishments than Manu.
Nah.
Oh, whoa! In 8 years, the guy's been to more than three champions. He's won 3. Sorry, he's been to 5. Team accomplishments. They have the best winning record of any team ever.
He was the second option for 2 years of that dynasty.
The 73 and 9, or 73 9, yes.
Yeah, 73 9.
Yeah.
Second option.
That's him as the second option.
He was he was locking down people.
If you're putting Manu there, Manu was the third option.
Yeah, because he was off the bench.
Yeah, was Manu the fourth option for a bit, like at the start of his career in early championships, or no? Was he always third option?
I think he was a third. Yeah.
They started with, okay, sure. But what about the 2002, 2003 ring? Do we not care about that?
Yeah, we don't care about that.
Because he was Manu was the 6th option on that team in terms of points per game. If you want to call him the 5th option or whatever, I don't care. Like that, if we omit that in terms of team accomplishments, we say that his value was like that's the same amount of championships as Klay. The rest of them, they're equal, and Klay did way more. I don't see the argument there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna win this argument. It's all good. Let's move on.
Okay. So, do you want to argue Kyrie now?
Let's argue Kyrie. Let me just justify it to you guys, all right? So, what I have for Kyrie, he's obviously a champion. Like, he has a championship in 2016, and he hit that big shot, right? But in terms of personal accomplishments, he has 7-time All-Star. He's All-NBA twice. He averaged, just last season, he averaged 27 points per game on 50, 40, 90. For his career, he averages 23, 6, and 4 on 47, 39 splits, and he's just stupidly efficient. So, I think from a personal standpoint, he's unbelievably talented, and he has the accolades to back it up. So I think that, along with the championship, puts him in the top 75.
Max, I think he's in the Damian Lillard category.
Good. Higher, a little higher.
Okay, fine, a little higher than Damian Lillard because he has the ring, but it's just because whenever he's without LeBron, he doesn't have any like playoff success. Like, he went to Boston, he messed up.
The issue was he also got injured that year.
Yeah, I don't really want to argue about the Boston thing because like that'll take like 40 years, but I think a lot of it's just that he's gotten injured, right? Obviously, right now he's taking time off because like of personal reasons. He doesn't want to take the vaccine for like other reasons, obviously. But I think it's overblown. Boston's overblown.
Boston, he was horrific in the playoffs.
No, he was bad. Like I agree, Kyrie was not good in the playoffs in Boston, but he was injured the first year, and like obviously they succeeded without him to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I think they would have gone even farther with him. And then the second year, the problem that I saw it was not like Kyrie just being a diva and making the locker room completely toxic. I think that was overblown. I think it's because the year before they got successful, the young players like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum realized they could be good. People like Terry Rozier got a big ego and like really just ruined the chemistry in the locker room. So I think it's really overblown how like I guess bad of a leader Kyrie is, because I think it's really unfair of him to pin the Celtics year on him.
Okay, but you can't be mad at him for being. You can't reward him for that, for whatever that is, because he didn't produce.
Oh, I'm not.
You can't just say, oh, it's not his fault, so he should make the all-time 75.
No, that's not why I'm saying he should make all-time 75. I think it's because if you just look at his career accomplishments with like the 7-time All-Star, his chip, he averaged 27 on 50, 40, 90. He's averaging 23 for his career. Like, I think his work of art, like over all of his career, is so great that he deserves to be on the all-time 75.
So, his last season, that is an amazing season. 27 on 50. That was such an awesome season that 50, I think 49, it got so underrated. But let's talk about him based on this list. So, in terms of my debateables here, he doesn't beat Paul Pierce. He doesn't beat Carmelo Anthony. He doesn't beat Klay Thompson. He doesn't beat Ray Allen. He doesn't beat Dwight Howard. I don't think he beats AD. No, I'm not going to say he beats AD. I'm not. And I can argue, if you want to argue that player, I'm willing to argue that. The two I'm willing to argue as the bottom two on my list that I think you can have an argument, we can argue this, is Anthony Davis and Pau Gasol. That's the only two I think you can argue. Kyrie being better than. Would you agree?
I would definitely say that he's greater than Anthony Davis.
Okay, so why?
Well, I think Anthony Davis, like, obviously has, like, the personal accolades. He also has a chip like Kyrie. But, like, I think Kyrie, if you look at him over his entire career, like, obviously Anthony Davis has all, like, the personal accolades as well as Kyrie. I just think Kyrie, I don't know, I just might be a tad biased. He's just more talented and he's just, like, he's so stupid efficient for a guard. Like, obviously Davis is good.
AD, okay, you look at AD's impact, right? I showed you the stats before, like their final stats compared to each other.
Yes, sir, you have.
Yeah, I have. Kyrie averaged more points, but AD averaged higher everything else with higher efficiency.
I think that just comes with being a center, though.
Hold on. AD's not only producing on the offensive end, he's the best defender on the court most nights.
Yep.
So he's locking everyone up, and he's a little younger than Kyrie. AD's on his way. They had the same amount of rings, and it was very debatable that AD could have won the Finals MVP over LeBron. When LeBron and Kyrie won the championship, it was LeBron, no doubt. Like that's.
Ooh.
To add on to that point, for the reason why I have Anthony Davis over Kyrie, first of all, Anthony Davis on those Pelicans teams was so beyond dominant. Anthony Davis should have a depoy.
I agree with that.
For sure, Anthony Davis should have a depoy. Anthony Davis led the league in blocks on 3 occasions. The one that I think of when I think of him having a depoy, potentially an MVP, honestly, is the 17-18 season. In that season, he shot 54-34, 2.6 blocks, 1.5 steals, 11 assists on 28 points per game. And let's not forget, that's the season where they went out and swept the Blazers in the playoffs when they weren't even supposed to win that series. In those playoffs, both the Blazers...
crazy.
Oh my God, he went beyond crazy. In those playoffs, that series plus the Warriors series, 30 points per game on 52% from the field, plus tack on 13 and a half boards, 2 steals, and 3.5 blocks. That's insanity. And that's just his Pelicans career. Let's get to the Lakers career really quick. On the Lakers, he's been to 2 playoffs, but the one we obviously are wanting to look at is the one where they won the championship. This guy shot 57, 38. He had 10 boards. He had a steal and a half and a block and a half. Or sorry, just under a steal. More like a steal, block and a half. On 28 points per game. He started in all 21 of their games. They won a ring with him as arguably the best player. It's a 1A and 1B situation there. And obviously in the regular season, he was nice in that season too, like really nice. 50, 34, 10 boards, kind of similar stats, 1.5 steals and 2.5 blocks, which is a little higher on 26 points per game. I just don't see where Kyrie ever gets to the level Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis was so dominant with the Pelicans and so good in that championship Lakers team that I don't see anywhere. There's only a 1-year gap too in their experience, so I'm basically calling them the same amount of years played. Anthony Davis has 8 All-Stars to Kyrie's 7, and Kyrie's an uber popular player. Anthony Davis has 4 All-NBAs to Kyrie's 3. He's a 3-time block champion, 4-time All-Defensive to Kyrie's obviously 0. And he's an All-Star MVP. Not that it matters, but I don't see anywhere where that argument makes sense.
All right. Do you guys think that the 2017-18 season was greater than Kyrie's previous season? Like, as in, do you think Kyrie's season where he averaged 27 on 50, 40, 90 is not as impressive as AD's 2017-18 season?
Well, I mean, Kyrie didn't play as many games.
No, but like just generally, do you think AD's season was better in 17-18 than Kyrie's 2020 to 2021 season?
You know,
Yes.
I'm gonna say yeah.
Okay, so if you guys think that, then I'd put AD over
Kyrie's
there.
season.
Like if
And Anthony.
go ahead.
Okay, so Anthony Davis in that season, first of all, like we were discussing, should be decoy in that season. Not only that, but he led that team for the first half of the season. They did have Boogie until they didn't when he tore his ACL, and he was still he got even better, man. That guy was insane in that 17-18 season. I'll pull up his with and without Boogie stats really quick. But I love Kyrie Irving's 50, 40, 90 on 27 points per game, tack on 6 assists. But he was on most nights like the second best player because everyone was sitting out games. So like usually he ended up being one of 2 guys on that team. But it's just not even in terms of volume, efficiency. Well, not efficiency, but literally everything else, and especially that defense. I take Anthony Davis.
And Max, you know how like in 2015-16, the last game of the season, right? The game 7. You know he was -9 from the field. On the court. His plus minus was -9.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's just one game in the finals, right? Obviously, Kyrie played great in the finals. If you guys personally think that AD's 17-18 season was greater than Kyrie's previous season, then I won't argue with you about who deserves to be on this list, because if that's the case, then AD might deserve to be over Kyrie. But in my opinion, I think his 27 points per game on 50, 40, 90 was more impressive. And like, I think Kyrie's peak there was higher than AD's peak in 2017-18. But if we disagree on that, that's why we disagree on who deserves to be on the list. So we can move on.
Yeah,
That's
Max,
okay.
your
Just
opinion's stupid.
Just look really quick at Anthony Davis when DeMarcus Cousins tears his ACL. That is 48 games into the season. He tears his ACL. Then Anthony Davis, in the 32 games he started after, shot 51, 35 up to his 3-point efficiency, 12 boards, pair of assists, but the kicker, 2 steals, 3.2 blocks on 30 points per game. So that's where my argument comes in.
And Max, I think Joakim Noah has a higher all-time MVP voting than Kyrie.
Ain't no way you bringing up Joakim Noah to me now. Come on now.
I'm bringing
Okay.
Joakim Noah's MVP season was MVP where he got votes was an interesting season for sure.
Okay, I think let's move on because we're never gonna agree on this topic.
So what else do we? I think the only other argument that I could see is Pau Gasol versus Kyrie. If you want to argue that, I'm willing to do that.
I don't want to argue that. I have both of them on my list.
Pau
So
Gasol got 2 rings.
Yeah, exactly. And the one stat I do want to just bring up for Pau Gasol, if anyone's like, oh, Pau Gasol didn't make this list. Okay, so here's my reason why. Pau Gasol, 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA,
Yep.
2-time champion, and his impact in those championships was insane. Here's his playoff stats. Through those 3 seasons where they won a pair of rings, and I included the season before because he played at least nicely. The other 2 are better, but still nice. He played 67 games over those 3 seasons, 55% from the field, 10.5 boards, just over 3 steals, a pair of blocks, 18 points per game, 2 rings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just really nice.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with you that Pau Gasol deserves to be on this list. Yeah, I had him even a tier above Kyrie here, so I won't disagree with you there.
Yeah, that's the only. Yeah, go ahead.
I would put Pau Gasol on the list, but for me it's debatable between Pau and Tony and Pau and Manu. Like I'm not mad if I take one of those off the list and put Pau on.
Sure, that's fair. I take Pau over them, but Tony Parker's the one that I could really see you arguing. The only one I can see someone arguing is Tony Parker in that spot. I could also see someone arguing for this last spot. Players I think I did list them, but Vince Carter and D Rose are two players I think you could argue. PG as well.
I have Paul George on my list.
That you could definitely argue.
How you argue PG? I don't see what PG.
Okay, let me make my case for PG.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
So, like, obviously he had that MVP candidate season with OKC, right? His career stats is 20 points per game on 44-38 splits, while not being talked about enough being one of the best defenders in the league. He's 4 times all-defense, 6 times all-NBA. He's made 7 all-star teams. He's one of the most improved. He's obviously Olympic gold medalist. Well, the Olympic gold medalist doesn't really matter, but that's just in his accolades. So, I think Paul George's stats, he's efficient on 20 points per game. He's one of the best defenders in the league. And he got that MVP candidacy. He obviously made all defensive, all NBA and all-star teams. So I think his accolades and his stats makes him good enough to put him on the top 75.
But would you put him above T-Mac?
Yes.
Okay. Let me pull out some T-Mac numbers in his prime.
I'll go with some Paul George stuff, some pro and cons to him, and then you can bring up your point. So Paul George, like you said, 7 and 6, the 4 all defensive teams, steal champ, whatnot. Evidently, no Depoy. Evidently, no MVP. Now, he was close in that 2018 season, but that's really the only time looking at his stats he was close. So he has that year, the 18-19 season with OKC. He shoots 44-39 on 28 points per game, that's insane. That's 4 points per game higher than he ever had in another season, period. 8 boards, 4 assists, 2.2 steals, led the league in steals. That season was insane. That is such an underappreciated season. The field goal percentage was a little low, but just when you look at his career, it just never was that high, especially early in his career with the Pacers. The real knock, though, is they didn't get anywhere in the playoffs. Was that the year they got knocked out by the Jazz, I think? Maybe not. Maybe that was the year before.
That was the Dame year.
Oh, that was the Dame year, right. At 28 points per game in those playoffs, though, on 46-32, 8 boards, 4 assists. But the steals numbers did take a hit. The blocks were almost none. Not that that's, tremendously important. But it's worth noting. The three-point efficiency took a huge dip, though. Usually it just occurs in the playoffs, efficiency dips. He also played 40 minutes per game, which was a few higher than his regular season. But other than that season, they went far in the playoffs when he was in Indiana, but he wasn't, as amazing. Except for the 1 year where they didn't get that far in the playoffs, which is just odd to me. And then he's been nice for the Clippers, but in that first season when they were in the playoffs, he just was awful. And then in the most recent, he was really nice, but, still same result, no chip.
Yeah, in Indiana, obviously he had a really good supporting cast, but I still think he was the clear-cut best player on that team. So I still think he's proven, especially in earlier years, that he can lead a playoff team. And also last year with the Clippers, he was really, really nice in the playoffs. So yeah, let's go ahead with your T-Mac take.
Okay, so T-Mac, he had, everyone knows T-Mac's career was riddled with injuries, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to take his prime numbers, okay? I'm going to tell you his prime, when he was not injured. His numbers when he was not injured. There you go. That's fair, right?
Go ahead.
Based on Paul George's body of work, Paul George played 11 seasons. So if you take somewhere even close to that number, then for sure.
Okay, it's 8 years.
Cool.
Okay.
So he averaged. So there was 26.8 points per game, 25.6 points per game, 32.1 points per game, 28 points per game, 25.7 points per game, 24.4 points per game, 24.6 points per game, 21.6 points per game, while averaging around 7 rebounds and 4-5 assists. Okay?
Over 5 assists, actually, yeah.
So those, especially that season where his prime 2002, averaging 32, 7, and 6, those numbers are better than Paul George's regular season numbers. Those numbers would make an MVP case if he had a higher seeding, but Grant Hill was injured for most of his career, for most of his career, so he couldn't get a higher seed. But he was the only one on the team producing buckets, right? And
Yeah, that's fair for sure.
let me check his playoff stats. Okay.
Just while you check that, it's worth noting that his 46, 37 in terms of efficiency for a guy who over his career was not like the most efficient guy. That was higher than identical 3-point percentage on slightly less attempts, but error based and whatnot.
During the 2000s, those field goals
2002, 2003, yeah, and he shot a higher field goal percentage, which is amazing, especially with his 32 points per game.
I'm trying to find his playoff stats.
Yeah, while you're trying to do that, I think if we're trying to argue who was greater at their peak, obviously I think I'd take T-Mac, but I think their overall body of work, Paul George has sustained it for longer, albeit maybe not that much longer, and his stats are pretty close to T-Mac's all time, and I think that Paul George is better on defense, and that's why I would have Paul George over T-Mac, but it's close for me.
It's the defense,
What was Paul George's playoff stats?
The 1 year.
Let's go overall.
You want his entire playoffs, because we're going to take T-Mac's entire playoffs, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Okay, so Paul George's entire playoffs, he shot a combined 42, 35, 21 points per game on 7.5 boards, 4 assists, granted, and 1.5 steals. Granted, he was never, like, all on his own, though, for what it's worth.
Well, T-Mac had 22.2 points per game, 5.7 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game, 1.1 steals per game, and 1 block per game.
Those are almost identical, except the efficiency.
Different. Because
the 3-point percentage for T-Mac was just low.
He was the only player they had a guard on that team because Grant Hill was injured. So he was carrying the team. These are on 50 games, by the way.
You really have to take T-Mac's like that 2001-2002 season and the 2-3. Those are like those seasons were and 4-5. Those seasons were all insane in playoffs and regular.
Like, and these are his playoff stats, including like the ones where in Toronto where like he was a second option and still a baby. And when he was old too. So like
the biggest thing that's worth noting is the fact that T-Mac played 50 total playoff games and he started 38 of them. Paul George has started and played in 108 playoff games. The volume difference is insane.
Yeah, I think Paul George has just sustained it over a way longer period of time, and also the defense is just really what like does it for me. Paul George is a great two-way player. T-Mac's not bad on defense, but he's not close to where Paul George is at.
But the only time T-Mac had a teammate, like a solid, an okay team, was when he was on the Rockets with Yao Ming. Other than that, he had no other supporting cast, so you can't play that many playoff games if you don't have a good support. Like even AD went crazy, right? We just made that argument. AD went crazy in the playoffs because he didn't have a good supporting cast. He could not make it far. If he had a great supporting cast, he would make an insane run.
Okay, but T-Mac never got out of the first round. AD got out of the first round in New Orleans in that Blazers season, for what it's worth.
Yeah, but like 2000s was debatably the greatest defensive era of all time. So
valid argument for sure. Like to be fair, T-Mac did make the playoffs a lot more than Anthony Davis did. It's just that one season, Anthony Davis absolutely willed them to that sweep against the Blazers.
Yeah,
and the seeding to be able to play the Blazers, of course.
Yeah, what was that? What was that season that T-Mac went crazy in the playoffs? I'll pull up his numbers.
The best seasons he had in the playoffs, arguably the best one is the 2001-2002 season. He played a total of 4 games though, but he was absolutely insane in those 4 games. Any of that 2002-3 or 4-5. I just don't see the argument. It's basically it's really close, but it's the defense for Paul George. And the fact that he's made it it's the amount of the volume in the playoffs. Like whether it's T-Mac's fault or not is kind of irrelevant when we talk about greatest of all time. They're very similar players in terms of like they're the same height and they play the same position. But Paul George's defense kind of beats out T-Mac's offense in a way.
Yeah, that last point.
Like you saying like Paul George's defense beats out T-Mac's offense, but T-Mac was not. It's not like we're saying like T-Mac was a bad defender. He was an above average defender.
No, Paul George is just a 4-time all defensive team.
Yeah,
but T-Mac was 6'9", with 1.1 steals and a block per game. It's not like.
It's good. This argument's really close, and I didn't watch like a ton of T-Mac, obviously, because I wasn't really alive.
Yeah, I think it's one way or another. I think both are great players. We're not really going to reach a consensus here. Both might be able to make this list, so that's why they're in the debatable section.
Yeah, that's why neither of them made my list. And PG made yours. Did you put T-Mac, Thomas?
No.
Okay, but he was just close.
Yeah, he was above Paul George and Maman though.
Yeah, so all in all, our main differences came down to the last few picks. There was obviously some differences in the first three tiers in terms of placing, but most of it was very close. Other than our argument of Giannis versus KG, which is one that I enjoy having. But
bro, KG. Oh my God.
We're starting. We didn't get anywhere. I don't think we're gonna get anywhere. But Klay Thompson, whether he's on your list or not, I think he's on the list. We have people who don't think he's on the list. Anthony Davis being on or not on the list. Pau Gasol being on or not on the list. The two Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker being on or not on the list are really where kind of our main arguments lie. But generally, I think we can all agree that our lists were better than the NBA list, and I think that's all that really matters in life.
Yeah, we're just better than except Max's. Max's list is stupid.
Oh, come on now.
No, I might take
their
list over. Not gonna lie, but I think that's gonna do it for episode 2 of Dishing Heat. This was a really fun episode. Comments, I really appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah, I'll make everything fun.
I enjoyed your takes. I enjoyed arguing with you. It's definitely a different vibe with you, 100%. We'll be back for our next regularly scheduled episode about current NBA news and whatnot. But this was definitely a really fun episode to do, and yeah, it's an interesting topic for sure. And I don't think we're gonna ban Max. I think Mr. Big Shot Song is gonna be back next week.
No.
So make sure, hopefully, if you enjoyed, make sure to if you're on Apple, leave a rating, and if you're on Spotify, hit that follow button. We really appreciate
Kyrie's
it.
playoff run was better than 80's playoff run.
We're not gonna get anywhere on that, Kumis.
If you agree with us, make sure to hit that follow. If you agree with me and Kumis on Anthony Davis.
If you don't, Max's, please leave.
If you agree with mine, hit the like and the follow.
Oh yeah, and hit that like and subscribe. Obviously on YouTube. We have an Instagram now. I believe it's on the link tree, and if not, it will be when this time. Hopefully when this episode goes up at dishing_he. Hit that up for the latest news, some clips, maybe a little blooper reel for our first very interesting intro.
Averaging 3.3 steals per game.
Okay, and on that note, we'll see y'all next time. Peace.